Hi there, welcome to my channel. This is Aldo's Machine Knitting. My name is David. I wanted to talk about an exhibit I went to. It was the new Frankenstein TV series, and I went to go and look at the costumes that were made. This was at Suffrages in central London, the Suffrages Hotel, and it was really very interesting. I thought it was such a nice idea and a nice way of doing the costumes, and it looked really detailed and really interesting. And I really liked the kind of focus that was on the details, and I really liked the feel of the film or the costumes and also the sketching. So I thought I would do a machine knitted jumper on this exhibit, and just a kind of influence and do some interesting aspects for this exhibit. I found the exhibit quite, it's not as small as I thought it was going to be. It wasn't a very large exhibit, but it was actually a really nice exhibit the way they've made it work. I really loved some of the textures and the waxworks and how it looked. It's not actually 100% accurate to the Victorian times, but the detailing and the texture and the feel of it was really great. I then decided to do some color boards and just to experiment, just to see what the color boards would look like. And this is what I came up with, and it was really fun to do. I finally settled on this, and this is how it looked for the final thing. What I'm going to be doing now, I've just cast on some yarn. I'm going to be doing two eyelets. I'm just going to show you how they are done. It doesn't really matter what count you're using on this. I'm just going to show you just a general count, and I'll be using two colors of yarn. So let's see how that works, and I'll show you how it's done by hand. I'm going to be using this second yarn as a secondary color. This will just emphasize the eyelets. It's a kind of green color, so I'm kind of using a brown and a green color together. It's a lighter green than what I thought, but it will do, and it actually made the project really good. So I'm just going to show you what I'm using, and now let me show you how it's done. What I'm going to do is going to work 4 needles in from the top here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to start working on this needle. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook this yarn onto there, the secondary yarn, which is separate, and I'm going to just create a loop with this. So that's basically what I'm going to do. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that and I'm going to unhook it. It's kind of like a cast off, but I'm going to go behind the peg and I'm going to put it onto this section. So that's one needle down. I'm going to push this up. I'm going to loop it over the needle and I'm going to start again. So I recapture this second needle with I take away the 2 loops and I put a new loop on with the colored yarn. So now I've got that loop and I'm basically going to cast off. I pull the yarn in front of the peg and I push it over onto the next needle. So the second needle will have two loops on. I bring it out and then I put this on there. I recreate another loop. So you actually are doing more than one section, but you must just remember that your yarn, your secondary yarn, is behind the pegs, and then I'll show you what to do next with that. So I just wanted to show a close-up of what I'm doing here. So I've got the yarn on here. I've taken 2 loops off already. So now what I do is I take that and I put it behind the peg onto the other needle opposite, push that other needle back, push that forward, put the yarn over, and that's how you are creating your first section of creating the eyelet. So then you do the next one very much the same way. You go behind the peg, you go in front, you've got 2 loops there. You bring that needle out, make sure that the other two yarns are at the back. You put your yarn over the needle, and that's how you create your thing. I'm going to do 6 needles all together, like so. Just got one more to do. Make sure your latches are open. Go forward, and that's how you do your basics for the eyelet. Now what you do is you lift it up from here, from your eyelet, from the pegs. This is what you do. Make sure you go to all the ends of it, and that's basically how you do eyelets. What I do as well is, just to give it a bit more finish, I just hook this up onto the other side, and that just makes it a little bit easier. So when you finish it off, it just makes it so you can create a knot here on either side, and then you're able to move forward. The next thing you do is you take these yarns. This is what I do. Move it forward like so. You move your needles, the 6 needles that you're going to use, and basically you recast the yarns on. What you do here is you recast the yarns, so you go under like so. You're recasting your yarns. Make sure they are behind the latch. And what I often do is sometimes I just move that needle and I just create an extra loop there. And this is done just for finishing purposes. And then what I do now is I recreate the loops. Make sure your latches are open. I recreate the loops. And I just recreate the knitting on the top here. As you can see, that's how it's divided. And I'm just recreating the knitting by hand by creating those loops. Here's another angle. I just wanted to show where I'm creating the loops. I put it over the needle. And basically what I'm doing is creating make sure your latches are open. It's like you recast the yarn and then you recreate the loops. And this is how this works. Make sure your latches are open. And make sure the needles are back into working position. So this is how this is created with these loops, and this is where you just cut. I use very long threads, and then I basically just cut that off. Cut that off like so. I make sure that they're long threads, and then I cut that off, and that leaves a very long thread, and I reuse those when I finish off the garment. I reuse those, and I use those to tie knots and to just make sure there's no gaps, and that's how I make this eyelet work. Here I'm just going to show you again. You take your yarn, you put it on the needle like so. You create a new loop, and this is how you start your eyelet. Take it on this side and you put it behind the peg, and you hook it onto this side. Just pull it so that it forms, that it's tight, like so. You draw out your needle, put the yarn over, make sure that the latch is in front of the first loop, and then the two loops are at the back of the needle, because you're going to go right through them, and then that's how you create this eyelet. And you do the same again. You go behind the peg, pull it forward, make sure the latch is behind, is in front of those two loops. Put the yarn over, and you push the other needles to the back, and then you start again. Push it over behind the peg. Do that, bring it forward, and that's how you create this. And then you start all over again. Go behind the peg. Just pull your yarn a little bit, pull that forward. You've caught them both, and then you push it out, and you make sure the two yarns are behind the latch. Then you put your yarn over and you pull it through. And then you keep doing that until you get to the end. Once you've done the number of needles you want to do, you then take this and you unhook it from the pegs. Sometimes it just catches a little bit. And you just capture it out. And then that's what you've done in order to create your eyelet. I just pull it slightly here. I take the one needle on the one side and I just recreate a loop to form on this side, like so. And this basically is just to make sure that I can tie the ends at the end of it, because that takes quite a bit of work to finish off the actual loop when you actually put the garment together. So that is the section I'm going to do. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring this needles out and I'm going to put them over like so. I'm going to remake the yarn. I'm going to remake those stitches. Make sure your latch tools are open. You press them to the end. And this is how you do the eyelets. I'm just showing you a close-up view of this so you can actually see what's going on. And just make sure your latches are open. And this is how you do this. And you make sure that's pushed to the thing. It mustn't be too tight and it mustn't be too loose. And like I say, with the last previous stitch, I just pull it over and I recreate another loop. Although it does make a little bit of a gap on here, on this section here, I usually pull it a little bit tighter and then I tie them off, because that's what makes it much easier. And then I actually crochet in the segments to make it so that it's more secure. So now that I've done that, I now recreate those stitches. And here we go again, and recreate those stitches. And it just it works quicker as you progress. Will actually get much quicker. Now you can see you've created the eyelet, and that's how it looks. I've just dropped the weight, so that's how that works. So that's what I'm doing here, and this is the overall effect of what you need to do on your eyelet. So I'm just going to show you the next step, which is just to knit. I'm going to knit about 6 rows, and then don't forget to cut the end off here, off this segment here. Make sure you've got a long thread, and then you cut off the segment. You make sure you've got a long thread because you're going to work these in when you finish the knitting. So that's the basis of the eyelet. I'll just show you the last section where we actually do machine knitting. Now that I've done the eyelets, I'm going to do 2 rows, but I'm also going to show you what I'm going to do here as well. I'm just going to knit 1 row. Like so, and I'm actually going to take the weights, 2 weights, and I'm just going to put them here, like so. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because I just want to make sure that it doesn't get tangled at the top here, because it's like you recasting over here, so you just got to make sure that this is held down. I do about 6 rows in between the eyelets when I do this, but you can do eyelets whatever row you wish to do. So I've done 1 row. I'll be doing 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then what I do is I just place it back. I can take those off after I've done that. And you can just pull it down, your weights, and you can see how this works. When you actually finish it off, you'll actually find that you have these edges that you got to work with. I really like this method because I like the way this works. Yeah. The other thing is you can actually do a number of more stitches, and you can actually make this more pronounced when you actually do these stitches. So basically this is what it looks like. It's really quite easy to do, and I'm just going to do one more eyelet, which will be in the center, and then I'm going to finish that eyelet, and then I'm just going to finish off the knitting, and then I'm going to show you how to finish this off for the ends and what I actually do. So let's go on to the next one. Well, finished the sample, and this is what it came out looking like. It's really quite a nice way of working. As you can see, I've done two smaller ones and one bigger one. But now the final part of doing this is to actually go on the other side and figure out how to finish these ends. So there's a number of ways you can do this. One way is you can actually take this yarn and take a crochet hook like this and actually just weave it into the actual segments here to finish the yarn, and just tie it off at the end. The other way is you can actually build a knot here, over here, and what you have is it's got a little bit of a gap. So what you do is you just go in here and in here as well, like that, and you just draw those yarns in, and you can actually just build a knot. I put a knot in here, and you can actually just put a knot in here, and you can just cut this yarn off. And what you can do is just work it in into the seam here. And you can just snip it off there. And that should be good enough for it to just stay put. It's to stay firm. The thing is, you've got to really finish those ends off, and you just got to watch out for gaps and just fill them in where you can. This side's not too bad. So it's just a case of how you finish it off. Other ways you can do it is actually take sewing thread, do the knot like this, and then basically just sew it tighter down so it will never come undone. But the hardest part is actually finishing it off. This is going to be the hardest section you're going to do, because if you've got a lot of holes in the knitting, what happens is it will take a lot of time to finish. So you should always add extra time just to do the finishing process of this. So that's how I would recommend. But otherwise, this is really a great idea, and it would also be a great idea for summer and how that would work. In turning this down, I saw that, oh, it looks like mouth and eyes. Maybe you can do something like that as well. I did this by accident, but maybe you can do something that could be more comical, more fun, and more enjoyable to use. So this is the end of the video. I want to say thank you for watching. Please subscribe and leave a comment, and I will be doing the next video soon.